So far, the philosophical problem of evil seems to have been solved via the logical argument, the probabilistic argument, and the external argument. However, there is one more way the problem of evil can be raised, and specific to this fourth argument, the answer needs to be a little different than the answers given to the other arguments. I'm speaking specifically of the emotional problem of evil. For many people, the problem of evil isn't so much a cognitive barrier to belief, but more of an experiential problem and barrier. We often hear this question raised, such as, why did my son die at such an early age? Or why does my wife have cancer? I think we would all agree, whether you're an atheist, a theist, a deist, or whatever your worldview is, that this question has merit. When answering questions like this, one needs to have an answer that's a little more existentially weighted than logically, so we don't come across as cold and impersonal or robotic. So how do we answer this problem? Well, I would say that there are probably 4 answers, not exclusively, but there's 4 that I would give. First and most important, I think, is not always in what we say, but the way we love, sympathize, listen, and treat and help those who suffer. On this medium, offering persons aid is difficult to do, which should give us warrant to be involved in those around us. Yet we should be prepared to offer any aid we can. Such acts speak for themselves and demonstrate what William Lane Craig calls the ultimate apologetic. Specifically to Christians, Craig is speaking of a responsibility to love those around us regardless of whether they agree with us theologically, and to be connected relationally with God, so to have the strength to love others well. Again, I think we would all be in agreement that the first step in dealing with the emotional problem of evil is to support our friends, family, and the strangers that we meet when they are the recipients of some kind of suffering. Second, Christianity, in comparison to other worldviews, has a unique answer to the origin, purpose, and eventual outcome of evil in the world. The Christian God is one who is not only transcendent, but is very close. Jesus is a personal God, a God that suffered pain, persecution, betrayal, and rejection, and desires communion with his fellow beings. He is unlike Hinduism, that states that all physical reality is an illusion, and with that physical reality being an illusion, there goes evil. Jesus is unlike Allah, the God of Islam, where repetition and submission take the place of warmth and relationship. And Jesus is unlike any answer given by the atheistic worldview, which seems to offer no real absolute transcending justice or comforting reason to those who suffer. My point here is not to belittle the Hinduistic, Islamic, or atheistic worldviews, but rather to show the distinction between them. I meant it when I said that I think Christianity offers the best explanation for the existence of evil. Christianity teaches that evil came from when humanity made the free will choice to openly reject God and follow the purposes and desires of his own heart. The Bible states that God, quote, in all things works for the good of those who love him. This is Romans 8:28, meaning that God can work the bad for your eventual good. After all, if God has created all, if he can take chaos and place it in order, then God can take a chaotic life filled with pain and orchestrate some ultimate good and design out of it. This is a sort of design argument from life experience, if you will. Third, Christianity teaches us that we are not alone in our suffering, but we have one in whom suffered all manner of pain, cruelty, rejection, betrayal, harsh word, humiliation, grief, and death. Jesus Christ was a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering. It is the Christian God who is not removed from human suffering, but experienced it firsthand. Craig and Moreland state, so paradoxically, even though the problem of evil is the greatest objection to the existence of God, at the end of the day, God is the only solution to the problem of evil. End quote. To reiterate, Christianity offers a personal relationship full of grace with the almighty creating God, a God who has suffered and knows our pain firsthand. Fourth, and finally, many of the things we have already said about the other versions of this argument provide some insight into the emotional problem of evil. First, the existence of free agents in the world, along with God's desire for free choice, leads to the possibility and reality of selfish and reckless choices by people. 2. God's omniscience and benevolence places him in a position to allow certain events to happen for greater or future good or avoidance of harsher evils. Third, we are not in a good position, and we are limited in our knowledge and perception of the events and lives around us. While some events seem utterly hopeless and painful, we are ignorant about the future. Fourth, Christian theology offers several explanations and promises about evil, namely 1. The world is broken due to the fall and entrance of sin. 2. God will provide ultimate justice for the acts we all receive. And 3. Knowing God provides an immeasurable good and that He can be personally known and comfort us via Christian worldview is very helpful. To conclude, I'd like to restate why the emotional problem of evil has merit and that we should treat it both personally and gently. This does not negate logic from the specific situations. Rejecting God's existence from a purely emotional standpoint does not equate to a valid argument or justification for such a view. For example, if I were to say that I am not an atheist because I do not like atheism, the presence or absence of my emotional preference says nothing about the inherent truth value of the atheistic position, something to be aware of. And so, we conclude our discussion on the problem of evil. Thus, to reiterate some key points. 1. All worldviews ought to give an account for the evil in the world. 2. The problem of evil raises the issue of ethics, relative versus objective. And 3. The emotional problem of evil requires action on our part and is not exclusively answered by what we say. Peace.